Welcome to Mac Geek Gab. Clive has our opening quick tip for us. He said he was setting up his new iPhone 14 Pro Max and noticed the transfer of apps and data was going very slowly. It was forecasting hours and hours. So he thought to do something that amazes me. He double-clicked the right side button and voila, a menu came up offering him several actions. The most interesting one was change Wi-Fi network or something similar. He selected that and discovered he was connected to the wrong Wi-Fi network. Connecting to the right one fixed it. An amazing quick tip. Double-click the right side button on the phone during the setup process. I don't know how he thought to think of that, but I'm glad he did, and I'm especially glad you shared it with us, Clive. More tips like this, plus your questions answered today on Mac Geek Gab 956 for Monday, November 21st, 2022. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where you send in your tips, like Clive's, your questions, your cool stuff found. We take all of those, we mash them together into an agenda, we string them together into an agenda, with the goal being that every single one of us learns at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include Kolide at KOLIDE.com/MGG. Great device security for your organization that uses Slack to educate your users. It's awesome. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Masterclass.com/MGG. That's where you're going to visit for unlimited access to Masterclass, learning new recipes from Gordon Ramsay, photography from Annie Leibovitz. It's great stuff. And a new sponsor, but not a new company to us here. Private Internet Access VPN. You go to piavpn.com/MGG to save 82% off your VPN service plus 4 free months. So again, play piavpn.com/MGG. We'll talk more in depth about that. In fact, we'll talk more in depth about all of those shortly. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is Jonathan Braun.
How are you, Mr. Today? Mr. Today? Man, how am I, Mr. Today? How are you today, Mr. John F. Braun?
As well as can be expected.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. Good. Yeah, are you eating turkey for Thanksgiving this week?
Yeah, probably.
All right. Yeah, that's kind of our plan too. We went with a smoked turkey this year. We talked to the local barbecue place and we were like, all right, we want to mix it up a little bit. So we're doing a smoked turkey and 2 pounds of brisket, because if you go to a local barbecue place, you can't not get the brisket. It's delicious. So I'm just glad we have at least two really good barbecue places like near us now. That has not always been the case up here in the northern climes. So, all right. Well, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Everybody in the U.S. that celebrates, because I realized we have a worldwide audience, and Thanksgiving's, it turns out, not a thing outside of the United States. I mean, Canada has their own, but they had it already this year. Mm-hmm. That was several weeks ago. All right. You want to take us to? Let's do more quick tips, John. You want to take us to Alex?
Alex has one that, boy, I didn't know that was there. So in Ventura, if you right-click on the terminal icon in your dock, or I guess wherever else it may be, and you right-click, there's a choice that comes up that says New Remote Connection. I'm like, wow. And it shows you the protocols that you can use. You can do SSH, SFTP, FTP, or Telnet. And a warning to people is that FTP and Telnet are not secure. So use one of the other ones if you want to connect to
Interesting.
another machine.
Yeah, so this only works if terminal's already running, which makes sense. Just as an FYI, if you're trying this and your terminal's not running, you won't see it. But yeah, what a fascinating thing. And what it picks is I see it picks, like, for me, I named my the Mini in my office is named Mini Office. That's its DHCP ID, and therefore that's its name on my network. And it is creating the SSH command to go to minioffice.local. So which makes sense. Yeah. Huh. Fascinating.
Yeah. So I guess it, so how do you get the list of servers is my question. I guess it uses Bonjour to do that.
I'm assuming, yeah, because it's not taking the time that it would take to actually scan everything in your local subnet.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it would have to be using Bonjour. But, like, I'm seeing things, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm certainly seeing my Macs in there, but I'm seeing my Starling Home Hub. And so I don't think that's a Bonjour device, but it might be. I'm seeing some other thing that's called Hub V3, and then it's got some numbers after it. I don't know what that is either. So, yeah, I would be curious to know, what is it? It's got to be Bonjour. It comes up too quick otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. Learn something new every day. That's kind of the point of the show, I guess, right? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, we're supposed to play the bell. If Pete were here, we'd hear that when we learn something new. So, Pete's not here today. He'll be here for the next one. All right, going on to Andrew, and Andrew shares. It was a tip that he had heard on when Jason Snell was on John Gruber's The Talk Show, which is another great show and two great podcasters. When you are using picture-in-picture on your Mac, if you drag the picture, it will snap to one of the corners of your screen. That's just how it works. Well, Andrew relays that Jason taught us that if you command drag the picture-in-picture, window, you can leave it wherever the heck you want, which I really like. It's our computer. We should be able to put it where we want. So, and that's not only is this a great tip, but it's a good mindset hack, right? Like the command key, I always think of it as I can command the system to do other things. Like if I want to reorder my menu bar items, you command drag them, and that's how you can reorder them. So maybe that's maybe that's a bonus quick tip, right? So it makes sense that the command key would be used for this, but I don't think Apple documents the fact that the command key does these things anywhere. So that's why we do what we do, so that so that we all know, so that we learn. It's good. All right, more on that one, John, or
nope.
Okay, then we will go on to Jessi, who says, I've been struggling to figure out Stage Manager on my Mac. Same. It seemed odd to me that Safari always stayed on the screen, even when I brought other apps to the front. Turns out this inconsistency that seemed like a bug was really opportunity in disguise. I dug around and saw people talking on Apple discussions about this. I learned that how I had previously assigned apps to spaces, remember that feature, determines their behavior in Stage Manager. And now I can use that fact to fine-tune Stage Manager to my liking. You can too. So evidently, Jessi had put put Safari in every space, like you could in Spaces. I think still can. And Stage Manager clearly builds on the foundation of Spaces. It's really just Spaces sort of version 3 or something. But Jessi says, here's how you leverage this. Make sure you have at least 2 spaces set up. So you still need to use Spaces to do this. You don't have this functionality in Stage Manager. Then control-click on any app in your dock and select Options. You will see Assign To, a little menu come up. and you can select your desired option. You can select all desktops, this desktops, or none. If you select all desktops, the app will stay on screen constantly while using Stage Manager. Oh, if you select none, the app will alternately show and minimize to the strip as expected while using Stage Manager. And if you select this desktop, you are in multiple spaces land, and I believe each app will show and minimize as expected in Stage Manager, but in its assigned space, so that you can end up with different Stage Manager strips in each space. Oh, wow. Oh, this gets very meta. Lastly, Jessi continues, if you prefer having only one space, as I do, you can delete any additional spaces, yet the spaces desktop assignments you made will persist in affecting the behavior of your apps in Stage Manager. So if you want one of the apps to be in always on in Stage Manager, create a second space, tell it to appear in all desktops, then remove the second space, but that setting persists. Amazing. He says, I use this knowledge to get Safari to minimize to the strip, but also to set music, the Apple Music app, to all desktops, as I like to keep the music mini player window open all the time. Right. Very nice, Jessi. Thank you for finding that. And thanks for the very detailed description there. Wow. That's pretty good. I like it. All right. Moving on, John.
Moving on to Jim. So Jim has a little tip here. So Ventura. Sometimes when you upgrade your OS, things may not work, and this is one of those cases, but there's a workaround. So Jim says, I'm a longtime user of LaunchBar, and I'm currently on the latest version. After upgrading to Ventura, I was not able to open Safari using LaunchBar. I tried all of the usual fixes, rebooting, reinstalling, but no luck. I then wrote a support ticket to Objective Development and got the following response. And the fix worked immediately, since I'm sure you have many listeners that use LaunchBar. I don't think you do, but somebody must.
But we've certainly heard from many of you over the years who do. Yeah, for sure. Very popular app.
So LaunchBar is not yet optimized for macOS Ventura, what they say.
Got it.
Please open the LaunchBar index, go to the indexing rule applications, click on the options tab, and activate use Spotlight Index. After that, Safari should be included in the search results again.
Oh, interesting. So for whatever reason, I wonder if it's because, for whatever reason, LaunchBar's own indexer doesn't find Safari. I wonder if it's because Safari is stored not really in the applications folder. It's actually elsewhere, but Spotlight sees it for sure. Huh. All right. Sure. I'll take it. All right. Apple Watch time, John. You want to take us to David?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm still digging the watch.
Okay. Yeah, I've been meaning to ask. Like, it's been a couple of weeks. You're still wearing it. Like you're still choosing to use the watch, the Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Cool. What are your top 1 to 3 favorite features, favorite side effects, favorite things you get from using the watch?
Though I had to dig for it, and I thought I had turned it on, but being able to unlock various devices, like if I get near my computer and then the watch gets near it, it's like, oh, okay, you want to unlock your computer, right? So that's kind of handy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll touch on this a little later, but using it in the store to like scan my loyalty card is also kind of neat. And then, of course, Apple Pay.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Are probably the top things. The other thing that I've done lately is to make sure I'm alive. So there's the oxygen sensor, the ECG, and just heart rate in general. And I find those very interesting as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fascinating to learn how your body reacts in different things. Like I'm always interested at like when I finish a gig to see what my heart rate is and like those sorts of things. It's interesting. Or to look back historically, like what was it like when we were playing this song? Like, whatever.
Yeah. And the ECG especially, or EKG, I guess it is.
I think it's ECG on the watch. I'm not smart enough to know what the difference between an ECG and an EKG is, but Apple always calls it ECG. So,
but yeah, and every time I've checked myself, it's like, oh, okay, you have a sinusoidal rhythm, I think is the term they use.
That's a good thing.
Which is normal.
Yes, that's a good thing. Yeah.
And it also keeps saying this cannot detect heart attacks. I'm like, okay. That's
right.
like a disclaimer, I guess.
Yeah, it certainly has detected when people are about to have them or starting to have them. But yeah, Apple can't say that it detects them because then they would need all kinds of probably FDA, like it would become a medical device. And then they couldn't sell it over the counter anymore, probably. Although hearing aids now can be sold over the counter, which is amazing. So some of them.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. All right, we've got a couple of Apple Watch tips. You want to take us to David's?
And yes, another Apple Watch tip. So David says, I happen to be listening to your podcast in the kitchen this morning. Okay, good morning. When you discussed the Apple Watch crown, I absent-mindedly reached down to turn the crown. Lo and behold, the volume on the podcast went up. This is an obvious use of the dial/crown, but it had not occurred to me. So I had been fishing the phone out of my pocket every time I needed to adjust the volume. I don't know if this is universal, but it works in Overcast, Castro, and Spotify. Related but not part of a quick tip, it may be a little buggy. As I was testing it on other apps, the dial would adjust the volume indicator on the phone, but it didn't change the volume itself. But after switching between apps a few times, I was able to get it to work.
Interesting. Huh. That's great. Yeah. I love these little things that are obvious once you know them. But that's just how it is. We got a tweet about Apple Watch from Mr. Jeff Wilson, who says, regarding last week's episode and the tip of using your Apple Watch as a camera remote, which it can be, don't forget that the digital crown can be used to zoom in or out. So you can zoom your iPhone's camera when you're using the watch as the trigger, if you will, for your camera, the camera remote. You can control the zoom as well. Yeah, I don't know if I ever knew it, but if I did, I had forgotten it. So, there you go. It's another good one. All right. And then we have listener Bill, who brings us, man, did I not bring that over? That's too bad. Maybe I don't have listener Bill's tip. Oh, no, I do have listener Bill's tip. Good news, because Bill tells us about this himself, I think. Nope, sure not. Why is that not here? Huh. All right, we will play listener Bill's tip in the next episode. I don't know why that file didn't sync up here, but we've got an audio comment from him. But it's so good, I don't want to ruin it. So, one more watch tip coming in next week's episode, probably more than that. If you want to send in your tips about watches or anything else, or your questions, or your cool stuff found, John, where in the world could somebody do that?
You could send an email to feedback@macgeekgab.com.
You could? Feedback@macgeekgab.com. That's where I would send it, is feedback@macgeekgab.com. So, that's just how that goes. You could join our Discord at macgeekgab.com/Discord. Lots of activity there, including our latest contributor, Mr. John F. Braun. It's true. We've got John F. Braun over there in Discord as well now. It's fun. It's a good, I really like our Discord community. I love the Mac Geek Gab community. I know it sounds like I'm just gushing because I am. So many online communities just turn into dumpster fires of flame wars and hate and all of that stuff. And everybody in the Mac Geek Gab community is there to help each other. We did at the request of listener Andrew, we did create a Fish Shakes channel so that we can, vent about things, because we need to vent. But we're not venting about each other. We're venting about, technology that doesn't work. Like, for example, Ventura's system settings, because, it deserves it. But it's such a positive thing. Everybody's really there to help. So thank you for that, folks. And if you have yet to join any Discord communities, ours might be the right one because, everybody's nice. mgg.fm/Discord or macgeekgab.com/Discord. They both go to the same place. All right. One last quick tip before we move on here. Oh, this was a good one. Henry writes, I just stumbled upon a new feature long overdue in iOS 16's Contacts. You can finally work with contact groups, now called lists, in iOS. When viewing a contact's details, scroll to the very bottom and you'll see a new section called Included in List. This shows you all of the lists, renamed from groups, that the contact is in. You can also add them to or remove them from lists here. In addition, from the main contacts page, you can click on the lists link in the top left to view all of your lists. From here, you can rename, create, or delete lists. This is something you couldn't do on iOS before. You can also select which list to view by default when you open the Contacts app. But this is also where we lost a feature. Previously, when they were called groups, you could select multiple groups to create a consolidated list of contacts to view by default. But now you can only select one list at a time, or all contacts, or all iCloud, or all Gmail, etc. It may not be a big issue for most, but if you used to have multiple groups selected and wanted to keep that, well, then that's not for you. This is assuming the iOS. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Back to the positives. He says there are some new things you can do with the new interface. You can multi-select contacts to create new lists. You can email or message an entire list by long pressing or swiping right. Man, this is chock full of tips. He's got a couple of web pages that show that. We will put those web pages in the show notes so that you have access to all of that, because there's a lot to remember here. Thank you, Henry. Great stuff. Your questions coming up. More cool stuff found. The show is good. All right. Hey, look, we all know that our ISPs could know literally everything we do online, right? And that's one of the many reasons that having a VPN is an absolute must-have when we go online. I am super happy to announce that one of the best VPNs out there, and one of our favorites that we've talked about on the show a few times, and the one I use as my primary VPN, PIA, is on board as this week's sponsor. PIA stands for Private Internet Access, and they take privacy seriously. Not only does PIA hide your IP address, it encrypts your entire connection. This protects your internet activity from everyone, your ISP, network admins, or any hackers out there just itching to steal our most sensitive info, right? PIA is the world's transparent VPN. They never record or store your user data, and their no logs policy has even been verified in court. I know. There's a reason that I chose this when I was going through this earlier this year, right? And you get endless entertainment options too, right? Not only does PIA work with all the major streaming services, it's one of the few VPNs that supports P2P file sharing, right? So you can download just about anything. It's available for all platforms across all your devices, and just one membership can protect up to 10 of your devices at the same time. You can see why it's the one I chose when I went through all this. Right now, go to piavpn.com/MGG to get a whopping 82% off your VPN service, plus 4 free months with a 2-year plan. It comes out to around $2 a month. You can't beat that. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So go. That's piavpn.com/MGG for 82% off private internet access. piavpn.com/MGG. And our huge thanks to PIA for sponsoring this episode. All right. A question came in, speaking of Discord, from P. McConaway over on Discord, who asks, Is there a way to set keyboard shortcuts in the Mail app on my Mac? On my work PC, Outlook uses Alt-S to send an email, and my fingers have remembered this. I find myself doing that on my Mac, and nothing happens. So yes, the good news is there's a few ways to do this. The built-in one is in System Settings, or System Preferences if you're not yet on Ventura, Keyboard Shortcuts, and then click App Shortcuts. Then what you'll do here is click the plus button to add a new one, and you can choose to add it to all applications, or you could choose to do an app-specific one and choose Mail as from the drop-down. You just get a list, and you can pick whatever app you want. For what you're doing, I would choose to do it in Mail only, just so you're not impacting other apps. Then what you do, and really maybe step one is go into Mail and find the name of the command you want to trigger. So this would be send. And with capital S-E-N-D, capitalization and spacing matters, because what you're going to do is say, I want to assign a keyboard shortcut to any menu item with this very specific name. That's the paradigm that you're choosing here. And again, like we said, you can filter it down by application. So choose Mail, you type in the menu title, which again for this is very simple. It's send with a capital S. And then you position your cursor in the keyboard shortcut field and type your keyboard shortcut. So for you, that's going to be Alt-S or Option-S, depending on what your Mac's keyboard says. Then you click Done, and that's it. Now, one thing to note is that if Apple or the application vendor, because this works with non-Apple apps as well, if the app vendor had set a different keyboard shortcut for that command, yours will replace it. It will not add to it. So if you were used to using Command D to send messages, you can no longer do that if you assign Option S or Alt S to send messages. So just bear that in mind too. You are changing functionality. Now you might be changing it from nothing to something. So we could argue that that's adding functionality, but you are changing functionality. So just be aware of that. If you wanted, for example, to have more flexibility and more options, and you wanted to leave Command D there for sending mail. I think it's Command D. My fingers know it. I don't, but my brain doesn't. My lizard brain must know it. If you wanted to add functionality, leaving, Option or Command D in place, but adding Option S, then I would go to Keyboard Maestro, because that will allow all kinds of different things to happen, including this sort of thing. It's one of its core competencies, if you will. So I don't know. How about you, John?
I don't really do.
You don't mess with that, do you?
Yeah. No.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, yeah. If you don't need it, you don't need it. Are you a Keyboard Maestro user yet?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm waiting for that day too. I'm a patient man.
Yeah, I think I have a license somewhere.
Mm-hmm. You do, because he sends it to both of us every time a new one comes out. So yes, it's true. We lead charmed lives here, folks. No, Keyboard Maestro. That to me, that is. I used to say it's the future of scripting on the Mac. It is the present of scripting on the Mac. Really, it just makes life so easy, and you get other things with it. You get multiple clipboards. You also get text replacements, which means I have 3 apps that can do text replacements. One is Apple, because you can do shortcuts for, right in the keyboard preference pane, settings pane, I guess we call it now. And then I can do it in Text Expander, which is where I have all of my stuff and have for years. And then Keyboard Maestro can do that sort of thing too. So, yeah. All right. Barbara's time to take us to Barbara, John.
Let's go to Barbara. Barbara has a quick question here. Since Wallet doesn't allow me to load my loyalty cards, is there a good app for that? One that doesn't track every purchase? And the answer is yes. And I actually found this with my watch. So if the developer knows what they're doing for the place that you shop at, then you can add the card to wallet. And I have, tons of them. I got, my Stop and Shop card, my AAA,
Right.
all that stuff. But some people don't offer a way to put it in your wallet. What to do? You could use this app that I found ages ago called Stocard. Stocard. And of course, we'll provide a link to it. But the nice thing about it, oh yeah, you got it up on the screen there. Cool. Basically, what it does is it scans the barcode and stores it, or you can enter it manually. I think I've had to do both. And then the other thing it does is that if it recognizes the vendor, so as far as I can tell, it doesn't track your purchases. But what it will tell you is if one of the loyalty cards that it knows about is offering sales, it'll occasionally put up a little notification saying, hey, there's, a 20% off sale at, this place that you go to.
Wow.
So I have, and yeah, like for example, my library card barcode, their app, last I checked, doesn't offer it. So I have my library barcode in Stocard. And it syncs with my watch, which is also neat. So
interesting.
Yeah,
And
the thing that I found that was weird, though, is that when I first got the watch, Dave, while it, did the hokey pokey with my credit cards in that I had to enter the CCV for them all again.
Yeah, or call your bank on some of them. Why does Citibank treat me like I'm a criminal every time I get a new phone or something? It's crazy. Why? Drives me nuts. I have to talk to them. I have to go through a whole thing. They send me letters. It's like, guys, I just got a new phone. I'm not a criminal, and I'm still Dave Hamilton, for better and for worse. Anyway, sorry.
So that's what I got for that.
That's cool. And is Stocard free?
Last I checked, yes.
Oh, amazing. Huh. That's cool. That's great. That's great. Fun stuff. All right. Man, good. We're learning all kinds of things today, right? It's just how it goes. Pete's going to be so sad that we're using that sound without him. But, it needs to settle in at some point. All right. You want to take us to Todd?
Yes. Okay. Todd. All right. Todd says, gents, I've never heard you talk about this, and it seems right up your alley. Check this out. Email headers are a playground for email providers and services to interject their own content into emails that are mostly hidden away from us plebeians. If you dare peek at what is going on with email headers, your eyes will likely glaze over the amount of hidden text included in every email. Open any email in Mac Mail and go to View, Message, All Headers, and you'll see what I mean. And yes, I've done this, and there's lots of stuff in there. So
it is a nice history trail. Generally in order, with most recent at the top and oldest at the bottom. So you can kind of see the path that your message took, and even some of the security measures that different mail servers are using. And if it's, assigning it to different accounts because you forward it around, like it is, if you go through it, it does tell a story. And I think you're going to get to, some of the things that one might want to extract from that story, but it is, but it is sort of eye glazing. I agree with that.
Yeah. So some relevant email headers to me, all Zendesk emails include an entry of x-zendesk from account ID. All Google Groups emails include a list archive entry. There are going to be countless other examples of email headers that are in use. I've been going through all sorts of convoluted methods of setting rules to target Zendesk emails and emails originating from Google Groups. News to me, Macmail can work with these email headers in amazing ways. I was poking around in the rules section of Macmail and noticed the Edit Header List option at the bottom of the condition list. In here, you'll see a standard headers like from, to, CC, subject. Weirdly, there is a lonely plus button at the bottom of this dialog. You push it and you get an empty text field to fill out. I discovered that you can target any email header you want. I entered X Zendesk from account ID and list archive. Now I have these options to add to my standard set of rules to work with in Macmail, and can confidently target very specific emails based on those very specific headers. A huge time saver and something I never knew existed after using Macmail for over 20 years. And you're right. The rules can be very powerful. For example, I have one where one of my .mac addresses. So of course there's mac.com, there's iCloud.com, and I forget the other one, me.com, I think are the other three addresses that you normally get. If you've been doing iCloud for a while. Unfortunately, one of those addresses got on like a super spam list, my iCloud.com address. But what I do is if I look at the header and I see that it's iCloud.com, I'll just toss it because I don't use that address ever for anything.
Right. You haven't given, even though it's one of your email addresses, you haven't given it out to anyone. So you know it's spam. Huh. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's smart. Yeah. One header, I love this, by the way. And there is an Apple Knowledge Base article, believe it or not, that talks about using custom headers and using the edit header list thing, which fascinates me because this seems like one of those things that Apple wouldn't have written a knowledge base article about. For years, one of the most valuable headers that I've found is X-delivered-2. And the X, the D, and the T are all capitalized. I'll put it in the show notes. But that's one to look for if you're trying to filter mail that's coming into a specific address, but then getting forwarded somewhere. It will show your address even if you were BCC'd on the email. Now, it doesn't expose the BCC list, but you know you got the email, and the X delivered to header shows you which of your mailboxes it was delivered to. From there, you can intuit that was one of the BCC addresses, But yeah, super helpful. So, yep, good stuff. I like it. All right, let's see. We have more Stage Manager stuff from listener Steve, who says, I was driving around doing errands and listening to your comments about Stage Manager uses. I have the perfect use case, at least for Steve. He says, I'm planning a 3 to 4 week trip to Utah to visit all the national parks and monuments with overnight stays in at least 6 different cities. Here's my setup. I have 2 27-inch HP monitors, one in portrait and one in landscape mode. I got to get a monitor that I can test out in landscape mode. Actually, I say that, and it's possible I even have one, and I just haven't done that. I wonder if I would like a portrait mode monitor. Sorry, my monitors are in landscape mode. Anyway, sorry. Squirrel. I use the landscape monitor to compare hotel prices from 3 or 4 different websites at the same time, as I have different levels of points and stays so costs will differ. Right, makes sense. When I find the one I like, I drag the other 3 into the Stage Manager dock and complete the registration of the selected hotel or motel on the full screen. On the portrait monitor, I have Mail open on the bottom half and TripIt open in a browser window, or maybe the TripIt app, on the top. After completing registration, I receive a confirmation email. Open it, I print a copy, I forward it to TripIt, and I file. When TripIt chimes, I refresh and confirm all the dates. Then I slide the other 3 hotel websites to the right and start my search for the next city. Oh, Oh, I see. No more minimizing windows, shuffling windows, accidentally clicking on the red instead of the yellow upper left buttons, and only to reopen a new window. What a time saver. Thank you for sharing this, Steve. I think more and more of these, as we hear about them, will be the things that, that killer app is different for each of us, but it exists for each of us. And so sharing these stories, hearing these use cases, I think is going to help us all find how Stage Manager might work for us. I'm not saying it's going to work for every one of us. I still haven't figured out how to adopt it, but to be fair, I haven't spent enough time really trying. So yeah. Very, very good. Cool. Have you, are you using Stage Manager on a regular basis, John? Yeah?
On my laptop. Yeah, I have not yet upgraded this machine.
Right.
But no, I just have a set of windows. It lets... Yeah, we talked about this before, but no, I like it because it shows you more information as far as it'll show you the window and the animations that are happening.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. I mean, you can also use a Command Tab is, the one built in, but it doesn't really give you much context. So that's why I like.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Just because Stage Manager is like little live views of the other windows. Okay, I get what you're saying. Huh. Yeah, all right, I can see that. Yeah, I am so, I have my workflows, and so it's like, all right, well, do I want to mess with these? But I guess I need to mess with them a little bit. All right, I'll do it. Speaking of messing with things, and really, speaking of just getting some feedback about some things, listener Andrew opens up what I hope will be an interesting conversation for us all. He says, I've been an MGG listener since the double-digit days. Wow. All right. I also lived in the United States for 3 years. I've been back in Australia since 2012. To this day, I remain amazed at the poor deals that people in the United States get for a country of its size when it comes to phones, data, and network TV. I thought I would share my setup, and I'd be interested to hear stories from around the world. So, with his phone, he is with a carrier called Optus, which is Australia's second network, he puts in quotes. He says, I pay $112 a month for 4 SIMs and 200 gigs of shared data across them. This goes to me, my 2 children, and my work number. Okay, so he's got a personal work and then his 2 children. They can be eSIM or hard SIMs. Wow. So $113 for 200 gigs of data. Yeah. Because even Mint Mobile, I'm not able to get that. Not that amount of data. No way. Wow. Yeah. Okay. My daughter is in Italy right now and got an Italian SIM with an Italian phone number and all of that stuff because she's moving there, at least attempting to figure out how to convince them to let her stay. So if anybody has any advice on getting a work visa in Italy, feedback@macgeekgab.com. But she just got that plan and she is paying $11 a month for her cell phone service, John.
Wow.
150 gigs of data. Yeah. So, all right. So that's phones. We'll in fact, I'll save my tangential interjections. We'll get through all this. His home internet, he says, it's the same company, Optus. He has fiber to the curb and copper the last 50 feet or so. $45 a month he pays. He gets 50 down and 20 up. Or for $70 a month, he gets 100 down and 40 up. They're now putting fiber all the way to my house on the government-owned national broadband network. And for $90 a month, he'll get 250 down and 50 up. And all of the data is uncapped. Okay, good. And then network TV, he says in Australia, they have 3 commercial networks. Their version of It's CBS, ABC, and NBC, and then 2 government networks like the BBC. One of the government services is like PBS. Each of these 5 networks has 2 or more channels on the HD, and another, he says, you can get the signal on UHF and in remote areas by satellite for free. Okay. I run UHF into my Silicon Dust HD Home Run, and I get it on all my Apple devices. Yeah, the Silicon Dust HD Home Run is that's a good little thing. It's an antenna that takes the signal and turns it digital for you. All the prices above, he didn't say I guess that's free. Right. Yeah, because he's getting it over the air or over satellite. That's interesting that it has to be provided that way for free. All prices above include 10% goods and services tax. We don't pay any TV licensing fee here like they do in the UK for BBC. Interesting. Yeah, okay. So, all right. So I talked about cell phones. Well, I mean, on Mint, I think I'm paying $20 a month for my plan, and I get 10 gigs with that, which I know I'm a nerd, but 10 gigs a month is all I need to use. So that's what I pay, is $20 a month. And then for internet, my internet's cheaper than yours, Andrew. I pay $70 a month for gigabit symmetrical. I could pay $50 a month for 250 up and down. But I figured maybe it's $60 a month, but I figured, well, I'll just do the gigabit because why not? But yeah, so like fiber is cheap here in the US. It's coax cable, not so cheap. And then for TV, I cut the cord because Comcast or Xfinity wanted to charge me too much. So, but I didn't really cut the cord. I say I cut the cord, but then I signed up for Fubo, which is another $70 a month, which is fine, way cheaper than what I was paying Comcast. But I'm not subscribing to lots of individual services. I just subscribe to Fubo, and so I get all my broadcast stuff that way, which is great. Like, it's a great service, and YouTube TV is equally as good. Fubo gets us the sports and channels that we care about too. So yeah. What are you doing, John? What are you doing? What are you paying?
I recently upped my game on one of my services.
Okay.
So so on my iPhone, I'm with Verizon, and I had a plan that was 5 gigs of data a month, and it was about $70.
Woo. That's pricey.
I got an email from them. They're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're going to tack on an additional $7 charge to your current plan because we can."
Yeah, because you won't leave, right?
And I'm like, that sucks. But then I got an email saying, "Oh, hey, guess what? You're old, so we're going to offer you." So people over a certain age, at least in my area, they're like, "Hey,
it's the same everywhere. It's 55 everywhere. It's just how it works." Yeah, no, it's just how it works. Yeah. At least for all the cell phone companies, 55 is the magic number. So where you
and I got an email from them saying, "Hey, you want to get unlimited data and save money?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
And I did. So my bill went down. It's like 60 something now, but I have unlimited data. I haven't ever hit. Now I'll take that back. I've hit the 5 gig limit, in which case Verizon will put you in. You can opt for something called safety mode, where they'll throttle your connection, but you still have a connection. It's just not at the speeds that you're used to.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I did that, and for some strange reason, I had to switch from a credit card to a debit card to pay my cell phone bill. I don't know why they insisted on doing that.
Because they save a bunch. Debit card fees, merchant fees are less usually than credit card fees. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me sad because the credit card that I used actually has protection in case I damage my phone. Minus a deductible, I think it's like $25. So
interesting.
So that's kind of upsetting. So I may have to get rid of that card.
So wait, it covers your phone even though you own your phone outright, correct?
Yes.
But it covers your phone if you pay your cell phone plan on the card. That's just how they choose to do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like because you're paying for your phone in monthly installments, we cover it. It's like, put your cell phone plan on us. And okay, that's smart because they know they're going to get the fees every month forever. That's okay. All right. Yeah.
Internet, I'm with Optimum and I have 200 down, 35 up. And I think that's also about $70. And then I have cable with them, and I think that's another $70. So my bill with them. So I have what they call the triple play. So I have cable, cable modem, TV, and also phone service with them.
Right.
But they are now offering. So, in my area, all of a sudden, I'm now getting emails from or stuff in the actual mail saying, "Hey, we got fiber." Even Optimum now is offering fiber, and I think it's 1 gig up and 1 gig down. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
For about the same price. Then we got another group called GoNet Speed, and they offer like 3 different fiber packages, and even Frontier is like, "Oh, hey, fiber's coming to your neighborhood." So I got to decide what to do.
You got to pick one of those. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I have been super impressed with fiber here. We're on Consolidated Communications. I think it's changed its name to Fidium or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's like the latency is low. The bandwidth is committed and guaranteed. It's just fast and simple. And they say it. Yeah.
Though my current connection, I'm happy with it. It's all I need. And you were down here, a couple of weeks ago, and I saw you connect to my network, and apparently it worked.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, the issue I have with the cable speeds or the cable service is, well, twofold. Number one, generally speaking, the price is more than you should be paying for what you're getting. And I mean, that's certainly true for you. If you're paying $70 a month for $250, and you could be paying the same price or even less possibly for, probably less where you are for, gigabit. Okay, well, there's that. But then there's also the upstream, right? With fiber, you can have it symmetrical, and it generally is. So even if you bought a quote unquote slow plan at like 250, it would be 250 in both directions, which for what we do with the podcast, the upstream matters. And I say that, but really, I think the upstream matters for literally everyone because the 10, I know you get like 35 or something up with your current cable plan, but even that's like the fastest that you get with cable, and it's still way slower than your downstream, but we're all backing up to the cloud, whether we know it or not now. All our photos go up to the cloud. If you have a Backblaze or something like that, you're definitely doing that. Your iCloud Drive, that's backing up to the cloud, or at least syncing with the cloud. And, so Dropbox, any of those things, we all use a lot more upstream nowadays than we used to. And the cable companies, it's their infrastructure. It's just not built to support that. So fiber is the answer there. So it's like we all use the upstream. It's not just us podcasters that upload large files, on a regular basis. We're all doing it. So, yeah. But this is a great conversation, or I shouldn't say but, and this is a great conversation. Thank you, Andrew, for opening this door. We would love to hear from you about what you get and what you're paying for it. And certainly, if you're in the U.S., let us know what you're paying and what you get. Because even between me and John, there's a huge discrepancy, right? I mean, you're paying $70 for unlimited on your, or $60 for unlimited on your phone. If I wanted unlimited with Mint, I'd pay $30. It's very different. And even our internet connection. So let us know around the U.S. and especially around the world what you're paying and what you're getting, because it's good for us to just open our eyes and know. All right. Hey, look, how would you like to be able to learn the art of negotiation from none other than Chris Voss? Maybe that's not your thing. Fine. How'd you like to learn songwriting from John Legend? How about how to think like a profiler from John Douglas, who was with one of those, 3-letter agencies. Cooking from Gordon Ramsay. MasterClass, our sponsor here, is going to let you do this. You can do it on your phone, on the web, or your smart TV. MasterClass offers classes on a wide variety of topics, as you just heard, all taught by world-class instructors at the tops of their fields. Each class is broken out into individual video lessons, usually around 10 minutes long. I've tried this. I love it. You can digest these things. You're not overwhelmed. It's fantastic. You can explore at your own pace, and each class is supported by downloadable materials, guides, recipes, whatever fits with, whatever you're learning. I was blown away by how easy it is and how robust it is. It's really quite something. I highly recommend you check it out. This holiday, give one annual membership and get one free. Go to masterclass.com/MGG today. That's masterclass.com/MGG. Terms and conditions apply. Really, truly, go check it out. It's amazing what they've got. You're going to love it. Masterclass.com/MGG. And our thanks to Masterclass for sponsoring this episode. Next up is Kolide. Look, old school device management tools like MDMs force disruptive agents onto your employees' devices that not only slow performance, but they treat privacy as an afterthought. Our sponsor, Kolide, does things differently. Instead of forcing these changes on your users, Kolide uses Slack. It notifies them. It educates them so that they know not only what they need to do, but why they need to do it. And this lets you build a culture in which everyone contributes to security because everybody understands how and why to do it. And for you IT admins, Kolide provides a single dashboard that lets you monitor the security of your entire fleet. And it doesn't matter if they're on Mac, Windows, or Linux. That visibility makes it easy to prove compliance to your auditors, customers, and leadership. You can meet your compliance goals by putting users first. Visit kolide.com/MGG to find out how. That's KOLIDE.com/MGG. Go check it out, or go tell your IT admins to check it out. I think you're going to love it. And our thanks to Kolide for sponsoring this episode. All right, John, it's time for some cool stuff found. Let's do it. Terry, I think you've got one from Terry.
Yes.
Follow-up. Yeah.
So Terry says, in Geek Gab 955, you guys talked about a browser picker and described one of my least favorite frustrations. Opening a calendar invite, digging in to find the link, copying that link, and then picking the browser, least likely to cause problems. Before installing the free app mentioned in 955, I decided to check in one of my and Pete's favorite tools, SetApp. Lo and behold, I discovered OpenIn, which I immediately set as my default browser. Now that frustration is mitigated. OpenIn not only lets me pick from my installed browsers to open links, but I can also open in PullTube, which is the tool to download YouTube videos, or in Snagit to do some editing on a file brought in from the selected link. The preferences allow much more, including setting specific file types as well as roles. I'm just getting started here. But a combination of that segment in 955 and the joy that is SetApp has me started down what is likely to be a fun and productive rabbit hole.
Interesting. Yeah, I finally have installed a browser picker. I installed Velia, which is the one that you mentioned last week, John. And already it has been life-changing. The simple things, like the calendar invite thing, I knew that it would solve my Google Meet problem, and it has. Like that, thank goodness. But it also solves my Zoom problem. When I would click a Zoom link, it would open in Safari. You'd get the little bonus page. Safari would ask, do you want to open this in Zoom? I would say yes, and then finally Zoom would launch and all would go. Now I click a Zoom link and it opens in Zoom. It just goes straight there. I don't have to get the bonus page in Safari. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, it's good. You can be really granular with how you open, what you open. I've known about these things for a long time. I can't believe it took me this long to finally install one, because it took like installing it and getting it configured for my at least initial baseline needs Well, it took less time than it did for me to explain that to you. It was literally that fast. Like and at least with Velia, you can choose your menu bar item, and I have a little kitten as my menu bar item. So, hey, it's what I know. It's like I know if I need to mess with it, there it is.
Yeah, most every site that I go to is so my strategy. So most every site I go to, I run Safari, as I'm sure most of you do.
Yeah.
Though there was one site a couple of years ago. Our state lets you file your taxes online for free, but when I went to the site a couple of years ago, it was like not working. It wasn't rendering, or it wasn't accepting the input, and I'm like, okay, let's use Firefox, and that solved the problem.
Yeah. Well, and that's what these browser pickers are good for, is the edge cases, right? Because if you're using Safari for most of your stuff, well, hopefully it works for most of your stuff. I think that's where the benefit comes, is it's so habitual to just let links open in our default browser that we forget not to like right click, copy, paste until you learn this painful behavior. But having that browser picker just makes it so that you can just always click. And, if somebody happens to send you a Google Meet invite, well, it's fine. It's going to open in Edge or Chrome or whatever you've chosen. I would choose Edge or Chrome for Google Meet, by the way. That would be some Chromium-based browser would be my thing. So, yeah, it's good.
And another thing to mention, let's say that you want to set your default web browser. How do you do this, you may ask?
How do you do this?
Settings, general, default web browser.
Nope. I'm gonna let you do that again, because you missed a key element of this. Where do you find settings?
Oh, well, this machine is not on Ventura, so.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So that's right. You can do it. I take that back. I thought you had to do it in Safari. Like you do with mail, you have to set it there. But
yeah, I think that's how it used to be.
You're right. Yeah, no, but you're correct. The web browser is set in system preferences or system settings. Yeah, no, I take that back. All right, good. Yeah, fun. Moving on to Jedd.
Yes.
I wonder if Jedd's in Tennessee. I had to say that. I don't know. I don't know. There's a Grateful Dead song, Tennessee Jedd. I don't know. It just came right to mind. So I don't know. Music on the brain.
Okay. So here's Jedd says, listening to the previous episode where John was talking about Pokemon and flipping the phone reminded me of this older app/game. It is just totally up the alley of your everybody who listens to Mac Geek Gab. It's called Blackbox, and it's a bunch of puzzles that are based on using your iPhone in weird ways to solve the puzzle. Like I said, it's a little bit old, but it's really fun for those who haven't discovered it yet.
I agree. Up until this moment, I had forgotten about Blackbox, but yeah, it uses like I don't want to spoil too much, but it uses everything your iPhone can know about your iPhone. It's not creepy from a privacy standpoint, but the user interface for each of the games in Blackbox changes with each of the games. So you have to be creative. Yeah, it's fun. I forgot about that game. I'm going to have to reinstall that. That's good. All right. We moving on. Have you tried Blackbox, John?
No.
Oh man, you would love it. I really think you would. I think it would be, it's right up your alley. Listener Robert tells us, he says, I just received something that I crowdfunded through Indiegogo and totally forgot about. I love those things. It's called the Loupedeck Live S. They're now selling it or taking pre-orders, depending on where you fall in the queue, for $175. Basically, it's a Stream Deck on steroids, less expensive, and in addition to programmable touch buttons, it also has 2 physical dials that you can rotate and click in, plus a few actual hard buttons. Yeah, I have a Stream Deck here that I use when we record the show, and it's fantastic because I can just switch around. Like if I want to, I use it for mostly for our video stuff, but I also control like my mutes and things like that. So if I want to change and have the screen go to a screenshot or whatever, I can push the button and I don't have to think about it. It's great. This thing, he's right. It looks like a Stream Deck on Rails here. He says it comes with profiles for common apps, including Mac or Windows Desktop, Apple's Final Cut, Photoshop, Premiere, etc. It's got a nice GUI app that allows visual configuration and programming with a built-in list of actions and drag and drop configs. I thought these guys were just one-upping Stream Deck, but going to their website, I realized they have been making prosumer and pro-level control surfaces for quite some time, just a lot more expensive until now. They have some cool bigger ones with large dial and another with multiple physical fader levels. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I got to learn about Loupedeck. Okay. In some ways, my budget, I'm glad I didn't know about all the other stuff that they made. Yeah. This is great. Thank you for sharing this, Robert. Yeah, I am very curious about this thing. If you're doing any kind of, I mean, these things, the Stream Deck, the Loupedeck are marketed at people doing video streaming and all of that, but they are soft buttons. Like you can assign anything to them. And so if there are things, even apps that you run, you can you can push a button and make it run an app, or push a button and make it rejigger your interface, or, it really, you can trigger all kinds of things from these. So, you could even trigger a shortcut with it, which means you could turn on or off your HomeKit devices too, right? Like I'm just trying to think, and it's all contextual too. You can have, at least on the Stream Deck, and I'm pretty sure the Loupedeck does the same thing. You can have different layouts auto-populate on the control surface depending on what apps you're running too. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. That's cool. Thank you for that, Robert. I like it. All right. Yeah, moving on. It's cool stuff found time. Gavin has an answer for last week's what do we call it? Geek Challenge. And it's called Lossless Cut. And it is a free and lossless video editor. Allison Sheridan wrote in and correctly told us that FFmpeg can do all of the stuff that we were talking about, the lossless editing. This lossless cut, it's available from GitHub. It is freely downloadable. It leverages FFmpeg at its core to do this. It just gives you a graphical interface to make all the magic happen. So, yeah, very cool. Thank you, Gavin. I like it. It's good. Fun stuff. All right, John, you want to take us to Alex?
Alex says, I wanted to give a shout out to a fan control software that I use. It is not free, but very reasonably priced. It is called TG Pro. You may be wondering why I recommend the software. First, it is very rich in features, highly configurable, but more importantly, it is regularly updated, which tells me that the developer is very keen on consistent improvements and acts quickly on user feedback. Anyways, if you're looking for very good fan control software for your Mac, I think this is an excellent choice.
Huh. This looks cool. It shows the temperature of your CPU cores. Like there's more, it'll control the fans, but it'll show you all kinds of things. It's called TG Pro. Yeah. From Tuna Belly Software. I like it. Yeah.
Bellies, and so it's temperature monitoring, fan control, and diagnostics.
Yeah. Yeah. This might become one of those tools that we, that like you and me love. Nice find, man. Nice find, Alex. Nice. I like it. Robert comes back again with another thing that I did not know about, which I love. He says, I've been using Audio Hijack to control or to record and manage all of my audio, but I've yet to try it out for processing real-time audio feeding into Zoom or other live stream type setups. Using a Mac, there aren't a lot of options, and I've considered getting a hardware audio processor, but I haven't been doing enough live sessions to justify the cost and learning curve. I just heard about this software from Ginger Audio called GroundControl Caster, and it's a software suite that specifically promotes itself as a Mac solution for shaping, improving voice quality of live audio without having to be a total audio engineer, compressor, expander, equalizer nerd. I'm wondering if you have thoughts or suggestions, since I know you are always tweaking your live streaming setup, at least from time to time. Well, I had never heard of GroundControl Caster Live. There's a free version and a pro version. It looks really cool. It does a lot of the same things as Audio Hijack, but it's like Audio Hijack and Loopback married together in one app, and you get like a mixer interface that you can see on the screen. This I have not messed with it yet, but I'm going to. This seems very cool. You can add VST plugins. So yeah, so very similar to what Audio Hijack would do, just a different paradigm of letting you interact with it, which, yeah, I mean, they say they make it easier. I'm sure it's hard to say without using it, of course, but yeah, very cool. All right. But I will use it. So yes, I'll circle back, Robert. That's pretty cool, man. I'm assuming you haven't messed with GroundControl Caster, right, John?
Nope.
Okay. I answered you before you said nope because I saw you shaking your head. I need to remember that this show is mostly an audio show. All right. We've got time for a couple more. You want to take us to Ben?
Ben says, I know y'all generally avoid talking about pre-release products except for beta OS versions. However, Rolling Square has delivered many successful campaigns, and I think this one would be up your alley. Edge Pro is a magnetic mount for phones and tablets and lights to attach adjacent to a computer. I think it's primarily designed for laptops, but I'm hoping it will work just as well on an iMac. My blue Mountie from 10.1 Design recently broke, and I'm backing this campaign to effectively replace that. Campaign closes in 9 days. So, yeah. Check it out. So I think this would be especially useful if you're, what is it? Universal access?
Continuity. Universal access. Oh yeah. If you're controlling multiple devices from the same thing, is that what we call that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And they show, somebody with their laptop, and then on the right is what I'm going to guess is an iPad, and on the left is what I'm going to guess is an iPhone. And so it lets you mount it. So,
yeah, this is interesting. It looks like I can't tell. It's got a stick to the laptop or the iPad. For the phone, it supports MagSafe. So I'm wondering if this is a good continuity camera mount option, because it looks thin and it's got a hinge so it would fold down. Yeah, this is interesting. All right. Yeah. And it's a Kickstarter, so yep. Bear in mind you are supporting a concept. You are not buying a product. You get a reward if it actually succeeds, but you may spend money and never get anything out of it other than the satisfaction of backing a gung-ho entrepreneur, which is great. So just bear that in mind with Kickstarter. But yeah, wow, that's interesting. All right, fun. We got time for one more, I think, John. You got Bob queued up there?
Sure.
All right.
Let's see. I'm sorry. Okay. Could you?
All right. Maybe we do Andrews, and we'll come back to Bob for next week, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sweet. So Andrew tells us about a new LG monitor. It's available for $500 from Amazon. It is They call it the LG Smart Monitor. It's a 32-inch UHD display, which is how we say 4K in nerd. It's got what they call an Ergo stand that clips to or screws into, but it can clip to your desk, which is kind of amazing that they've figured out how to make a monitor work that way. It is a monitor, uses USB Type-C, but it's also a smart display. It has LG's webOS in it. It has AirPlay 2 in it. It's got Bluetooth in it. It's got stereo speakers in it. So this is an interesting thing. I'm a little sad they didn't make it as a 5K or even a 6K display, but it's $500. And a 32-inch display clips to your desk, or clamps to your desk, I think is a better term to use. But multi-purpose, like, yeah, I'm kind of into this. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah. Oh, it wants to play music. I don't know if you heard that music, but if somebody's watching the video, you can see they've got kind of a video that shows multiple use cases where it's clamped to the desk. They've got it in sort of a studio apartment kind of thing where, you use it at your desk and then you swing it around and you can watch videos on it. This monitor will rotate on this stand. So we were talking earlier about portrait versus landscape mode, and boom, there it is. And again, you can AirPlay to it. You can, yeah, it's for $500. And it's you get an LG display. Oh, I kind of like it. It's got potential. It's got potential. Thank you for sharing that with us, Andrew. You might make me spend $500. Mm-mm. Well, we always say that Cool Stuff Found is an expensive segment to listen to. You folks say that. We say that it's an expensive segment to produce, because we get as excited about this stuff as you do. And then, there we are. So, all right. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is Thanksgiving week. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to our premium subscribers, for sure, that send in. That premium is the program where you contribute if you want. It is not mandatory by any stretch of the imagination, but it is where you can contribute to the show if you want to. In the last week, we have had contributions from a $25 contribution from Thomas in Gardner, Kansas. I guess Thomas from Gardner is how I'll say it. Perfect. $10 contributions from Scott in Bourbonnais, Abel in Santa Rosa, Neil in West Hartford, Peter in Auburn, James in San Antonio, Mark in Coopersburg, Ari in Kensington. $25 contributions from Tom. I said Thomas in Gardner. Sorry. Gary in Houston, and Bruce K in Pascagoula. A $50 contribution from Rick in Plano. Another $25 contribution from Daniel in Levittown. Rick in Traverse City, Mikhail in Altadena, Harvey in Shoreham, John in Fredericton, Mark in Knoxville, and then $10 contributions from Gary in Babylon, Mark in Coopersburg, Ari, I said Ari in Kensington already. Thank you. I'll say thanks twice. Timothy in West Windsor, Warren in Gloucester, Frank in Voorhees, Bob in Lepeche, Brian in Danbury, Santiago in Palm City, John in Wake Forest, and Paul in Lee. Thanks so much to all of you. That's at macgeekgab.com/premium. If it is something you wish to do, we are very thankful for that. If it is not, if it's something you don't wish to do or can't do, that's totally fine. Sending in your questions, simply listening to the show and sharing it with other people, that's huge. That really is. And obviously sending in your tips and Cool Stuff Found, your questions, participating in Discord, just being a Mac Geek Gab family member really puts you in the 1%. I mean, we are, I said it at the beginning of the show and I'll say it again. We are blessed, John. Hashtag so blessed to have this community. It's amazing. It really is. So thank you, folks. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us for this last hour and change. Go listen to Pilot Pete's show, sothereiwas.us. Shout out to Cashfly. Thanks for providing all the bandwidth to get the show from us to you. Mac Geek Gab merch is available. That's a good stocking stuffer. MacGeekGab.com/merch. Check out our sponsors. You can see them all listed at MacGeekGab.com/sponsors. But you can also visit the ones we mentioned in today's show. Kolide.com/MGG, Masterclass.com/MGG, and PIAVPN.com/MGG. Go check them out. Good stuff. Say it. Say it. You gotta say it. You gotta say it.
Pete isn't here for me to read off his shirt. I'm going to offer some advice, and that is don't get caught.
Made on